Confidence and education is crucial at this point in time so that people are confident. Let me start with you, Rasi, and this is to do with how prepared IEBC is, and especially with what just happened, the very sad murder of Chris, of course, bringing Kenyans to a point where they're wondering, is IEBC ready for the 8th?
Okay. Thank you very much. It's sad that we lost a very dear colleague who actually the last time he visited the studio was in this particular studio.
Continues, yes.
It's a setback, but as a commission, like the chair mentioned yesterday, our colleagues was working within a team. So I think the commission is ready in terms of that particular area, that is ICT, where we have the director and we have a whole team that is really prepared. He was not working alone, but it's sad that he was a critical player in the whole process. But we have decided to raise up and work, and for the sake of him also, to ensure that we are facilitating and implementing a very credible election. I think to remember his input in all this. In terms of preparedness as a commission, I think we are very ready. We currently are going on with the trainings for the presiding officers. And on the 4th, we start with the training of clerks. Right now, the final delivery of several of the materials, the strategic and non-strategic materials, is ongoing at the constituencies and also at the counties where the elections for the 5 positions will take place, Member of Parliament at the constituency and the MCAs, and we also have the Senator, Governor, and the Countywoman member to the National Assembly at the county levels. And of course, we are also doing a lot in terms of preparing the tallying center. Today, we are going to do a testing of our result transmission system. So I think in terms of preparedness, voter education is ongoing. We have a lot of voter educators at the ward level. You have seen an increased highlights in terms of media intervention, both in radio and not only in the national radios, but also our local FM stations, so that we can reach our voters. So I think as a commission, we are ready. We call upon voters and stakeholders to join this so that we have a good election on the 8th.
All right, we'll come back to you shortly on what we should expect on the 8th and possibly what people need to be aware of before we get there. But let me come to you, Dorcas. And of course, with the sad murder of Chris Msando, Kenyans are speculating there's a lot of worry and concern. What is it that you'd like to let Kenyans know from the Office of the DPP?
From the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, it is very clear that our mandate under Article 157 is to undertake criminal prosecutions of all cases in all courts except court-martial. Now, the Director of Public Prosecutions and officers under him cannot do that work unless there is proper investigations. So our work is based on proper investigation from the investigative agencies. The new constitution, when it was unfurled, it had a new provision for the Director of Public Prosecutions, and that is the Director of Public Prosecutions has power to order investigative agencies to undertake an investigation in a matter that he comes by or is brought to his attention that has a criminal nature. And the Director of Public Prosecutions has done exactly that. Exercising his powers under the Constitution, he has ordered expedited investigations on that murder. And the Electoral Offences Act at Section 157 also mandates the Director of Public Prosecutions to order investigations. And he has actually ordered investigations. So what I would like the public to understand is that the Director of Public Prosecutions undertakes prosecutions. And in undertaking prosecutions, it is envisaged that the investigative agencies would have done a good work and feeds the Director of Public Prosecutions. Once he receives the investigative file, he has to exercise his discretion, make a decision whether or not this is a prosecutable case. And in doing that, the director would rely on 2 tests. First of all, is there sufficient evidence for me to decide that this matter be prosecuted? And when it is sufficient evidence, of course, we are talking about there is a substantive, there is a reliable evidence, there is credible evidence, all the laws have been adhered to. And once he's satisfied that there is sufficient evidence to undertake a prosecution, then he has to decide First of all, that test, the evidential test, is a legal test. Whether or not there is evidence is a matter of law. Once he decides that there is sufficient evidence to undertake a prosecution on the ground of sufficiency of evidence, he then has to decide, is it in the public interest that this matter should be prosecuted? And public interest is not objective, but there are parameters that he relies on. And when doing that, one of the things you take into account is the circumstances. Something could be in the public interest, but you'd ask yourself, is it in the public interest now, the circumstances we are working in? So we are saying the Director of Public Prosecution relies on the investigators. He has to do an evidential test. He has to decide whether it is in the public interest to prosecute that matter. And once he decides that, then we have to select the charges. We have got an array of legislations. We have got the Electoral Offences Act, the hate speech legislation. We have the NCIC legislation. We have the Penal Code. We have the Anti-Corruption Act. We have the Public Ethics and Integrity Act. There are so many legislations. So he has to select which charge is commensurate with the facts that are existing. And once he's done that and we decide to go to court, our work is to prosecute diligently, to make sure that the rule of law is applied, to make sure that the Constitution is upheld. And then we are supposed to take part in sentencing. We are supposed to take part in facilitating the protection of witnesses. And finally, we are to make sure that at the end of the day, justice is upheld. The work of a prosecutor is not to make sure that there is a conviction or there is an acquittal. At the end of the day, we are saying if somebody is innocent, then that person should be acquitted. But if somebody is guilty, the most desirable outcome for us is that that person is convicted and faces the court. And therefore, we make sure that the victim is satisfied, the complainants are satisfied, and the Republic, which has been offended, is also satisfied. Okay. So the prosecutors are Minister of Justice.
All right, well put and very well explained. We'll come to the actual case we're talking about here and the reason why possibly we've had so many cases come to the office of the DPP, but we've not had any prosecution, and maybe you'll make that clearer. But let me come to you, Mr. Hassan Mohammed. And the NCIC, of course, has a role to play, especially given the times that we are right now. We only have 5 days to go before we get to the general election. This has happened, and of course the different organs that have to kick in and do their work. For example, the office of the DPP. We also have the police. What is your message to Kenyans? Because right now there's a lot of speculation. There's likely to be politicians to even come out and say things which possibly would put us at a worse state than we are right now.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I want to join other Kenyans because the Commission has not come out to send its condolences to the family.
Correct. And
to IEBC for the unfortunate event which has taken place. Having said that, I think it's important that we assure Kenyans that things are going on well. I know that Kenyans listen to politicians, and there has been a lot of bashing of institutions, and so as a result of that, the confidence level maybe in those institutions has gone down.
Including NCIC.
Exactly. Including all the institutions which are in this country. And that is a very unfortunate thing, because if we kill all the institutions and we kill the confidence in those institutions, then I don't know how we shall operate in this country. But having said that, I think we have been assured by IEBC chairman that things are going on well. And let me say that this IEBC and the ICT center, the way I know myself, is not a small kiosk which is owned by one person. And if something happens to that one person, then the whole kiosk is closed down. I believe this is an institution. We have been told that this is a team. In my language, we have a saying that a millipede does not limp because of one limb being, does not, it doesn't
so many legs,
suffer.
It will not limp because of one leg.
Because of one leg. So that is what I'm assuming is happening at the IEBC. And we have been told that this afternoon they are going to do a test run. So that is something to assure Kenyans. But I think we should continue hammering that, because, for the politicians, they just say one thing and it becomes something very big and everybody knows about it and is talking about it. But for the institutions, you have to speak more louder, and your actions also have to be seen so that people have confidence in you. So I think Kenyans should be assured that things are going on well. Secondly, I think people should not, it's not good to go out, especially I'm saying to politicians. If they think that these elections are no longer tenable, then they should say that. But, on the one hand, they're going ahead campaigning. And on the other hand, they are talking about the institution and the elections and whatnot. So I think they should choose one and come out clearly. The way I see myself, they have chosen, and they know that this election is going to be done well because we have been assured by the institution. And therefore, we should have that confidence and send that confidence to the people. Because if they keep on, talking the way they are talking, then they probably can have even a voter apathy in their areas, and it's not very good for them.
All right, let me come back to you, Dorcas. And of course, the public are waiting to hear from the different institutions that are in place as to what is the way forward. And you've mentioned that, of course, it is pegged on credible and good investigations that now the DPP is able to take that up and prosecute or at least begin the procedure. What should Kenyans wait for? What should they anticipate for? Because you cannot stop people from speculating. And secondly, they say that where information ends, imagination takes over. So as we are waiting for the DPP to wait for all other organs to kick in, imagination takes over. So what would you tell Kenyans in terms of what should we expect?
What we should expect, as far as elections are concerned, the DPP, one of the goals of the DPP is quality prosecutions, and so that we enhance the value of our prosecution. What we have done is that we have a unit that is dedicated to electoral offences. And this is the Electoral Hate Speech and Incitement to Violence Unit. The DPP has dedicated 105 prosecutors whose work is just to deal with this kind of offences. At the same time, the DPP has put in a 24-hour secretariat that will be a rapid response to all offences that are committed. And then to ensure that Kenyans know what we are going to do, we have developed a standard operating procedure for the prosecutors, which is a public document. Therefore, if you're going to commit an offense, this standard operating procedure is telling the prosecutor, this is how you're supposed to deal with these cases. And we have put sample charge sheets. Supposing you are, for example, you are suspected of having bribed voters. We have a sample charge sheet which shows which kind of offense you can be charged with and what are the ingredients of that offense. So what we are saying, we have been transparent so that we are accountable, so that the public knows what are the offenses that are likely to be committed and who can commit them, how do you commit them, what do we look for. Therefore, we have given out, we have been transparent in showing what we are relying on, such that if you are a member of the public and you've committed an offense, you will not say that this has been done to me because of ABCD. It is very clear that the DPP has put in there, in fact has downloaded the complexity of the law and made it very clear to investigators and prosecutors that this is what we expect. Now, even with the murder case that we are talking about, the prosecutor has a policy document that has been issued by the DPP and guidelines, which will explain what is the evidential test that you need to apply in a murder case, and whether or not it will be in the public interest. Of course, all murder cases, it would be in the public interest to prosecute. And therefore, we're saying the DPP has put in place a procedure and a measure to make sure that there is uniformity, there is consistency in applying the criminal law and prosecution. And at the same time, he has made sure that we are accountable. We document all our decisions and they are publicized. Therefore, we are saying the suspect, the witness, the victim, the complainant, the public, the institution, it is very clear and transparent on what you expect from the DPP, what the DPP can do, and it also be very clear what are the other variables that can affect that kind of procedure. Otherwise, everything is on the table.
All right. Well, thank you very much. This is Kivumbi 2017, in case you're joining us now. And we want to take a short commercial break and pay a few bills, but we will be right back. Remember, you're welcome to participate in this conversation. I'll give you the hashtag, or rather, the hashtag is Kivumbi 2017. I'll give you the social media handles as we continue with the show. But for now, we'll take a short break. But do stay with us as we continue to talk about voter confidence right here on Kivumbi 2017.
Your election coverage starts here. Kivumbi 2017.
The race to August 8th has been heated and grueling. Sasa Ruto. Iko mtu gani mjinga hapa ya kunaswa na mtego ya panya?
Ni za kusafisha safisha, fagia fagia.
Tutawakamatia chini.
Safari oya.
And KTN News has followed its every twist and turn.
Watulize boli.
I can bring them if you want.
Please do.
Peter
please
Kenneth
do.
failed.
Please do.
No,
please
let me speak.
He's putting on a Muslim cap.
Is that a matter of fact?
He has a very deep panga cut.
Is that a matter of
Tell him
fact?
to remove his cap. He has a very deep panga cut.
And now comes the home stretch in the most consequential election in recent times.
Tunatafuta mbuzi yetu na wenye waliikula.
The problem in this country, Yvonne, is not laws, it's not even policies, not even institutions. It's actually a question of leadership.
We have a talent center in Kenya and in Kenya and in the clouds.
Join our team of experienced reporters and the best political analysts in the land as we put context to the rest and bring the conversation to your doorstep.
Hospitali ya binafsi ni very expensive.
Get the whole story as it happens only on KTN News, your 2017 election headquarters.
Unfortunately, at times we like speculating a lot, pointing fingers, and almost, pointing fingers in the wrong direction. But I want to say that we are professional investigators. They'll follow, pursue all leads available and possible to get to the bottom of this. I'll put in my best team, and if the need be, we'll seek support from elsewhere.
KTN News, your official election station.
Welcome back to Kivumbi 2017. It is now just about 22 minutes to 8. And, well, this is where you certainly want to be for wall-to-wall coverage of the elections before, during, and even after, to ensure that we bring you conversation that prepares you and lets you get ready for the 8th of August, which is only 5 days to go. Now, a quick reintroduction of the guests that we have in studio. We have Dorcas Odur, who is the secretary in the DPP's office. We have Hassan Mohammed, who's CEO in the NCIC. Then we have Rasi Masudi, who's the director for voter education right here in studio. And what we're talking about is voter confidence. Now, a cross-section of communities living in Narok County have started leaving the county ahead of the general election. Narok County, which has been marked as one of the potential hotspots for alleged violence, has seen massive exodus for fear that the election might run chaotic. The exodus began during, with many of the residents jamming public service vehicles termini to make their trip to upcountry. Many residents fear they could be evicted from the land which they bought, while others decided to go home to vote for their preferred leaders.
Punde kwa siku 2-3 tumeona jamii wakihamahama kwenda sehemu mbalimbali. Ningependa tu kuwahimiza wasiende, wabaki huku wapige kura, manake hao ndio wataleta mabadiliko. Kura yao ndio muhimu, hao ndio kusema, na ningependa tu kuwahimiza kwamba hata pale ambaye wanaelekea vile vile kutakuwa na amani, na kama tu vile Narok iko.
Wenye wanahama sioni wakienda kupiga kura, juu kura wamekatia hapa. Na mimi nasema tafadhali wakae waache kuhama, juu wamehama kutoka last week na bado wanaendelea kuhama. Sasa mimi naomba waache kuhama. Juu naona watu wamehama karibu zaidi ya watu 200 hivi na bado wanaendelea kuhama.
All right, and I'll start with you, Hassan Mohammed, the NCIC CEO. Does that worry you? Does that concern you that there are some Kenyans who already feel that the areas they're in is not safe to a point where they're migrating?
You know, I think some of them are just taking precautions, but this is something I think which we should have preempted. That's what I think myself. I was in Nakuru the other time and we were discussing with the Parliamentary Committee on Cohesion, and we were discussing with the District Security Committee about Naivasha and the people working in the flower farms. I think these people need to be assured and reassured so that they can stay there, because you know they're just thinking back what happened in 2007, 2008, and any small signal they see, they think, oh, this thing must be coming.
Has the NCIC come out to assure people that things are okay and that they can stay where they are? Because it seems like the NCIC has been fairly silent on that.
No, I think what some of the people probably are misinterpreting some of the things we have written and which have been also been distributed by other institutions. When we talk, for example, about hotspots, we are not saying that people should run away from those hotspots. All we are saying is that when it comes to, deployment and beefing up security and that there needs to be extra vigilance and extra care in those areas. And that's exactly why we were mapping out the hotspots, so that the security and the other people, even the leaders, the district peace committees, can reassure people and can make sure that these people have enough security. So I think, as they're saying, 100 people have left Narok, but I think these people need to be reassured in this place, in many other places, even in Uasin Gishu, for example. There are certain communities, for example, who probably were not originally from that place but have settled there. They are going to provide swing votes. And I think they feel threatened because the people who are contesting sometimes see them as having that they can sway the vote to one direction or the other. So these people need to be given assurance. We have ourselves gone out. Whenever we go out, we have meetings with the security committees, with the DPCs, and we are in touch with the DPCs so that people can be reassured. And we are even telling them now on television that we are reassuring people, and the security, I think, is taking care of this.
There's no need for people to move from
I think
their respective places.
we can't prevent people from taking precautions.
It's not to prevent them, but they may be doing that because they fear that they could be troubled.
I don't think there is need for this, because we have been told over and over again that the security is more prepared this time than 2007. They have prepared for a long time, and I think they are ready to take care of certain situations.
Okay.
Up to now, we have not had violence. I think serious violence in the counties, and that is a plus, I think, for our security.
All right. I'll come to you, Mr. Rassi, and this is to do with preparedness, and IEBC. You assured us that IEBC is prepared to, for August 8th. But what should we, as the electorate, be concerned about, or what should we have prepared as we get ready for the 8th?
Thank you very much. I think I'll very fast take you through what to expect on that day. Just to mention that the election actually will be on the 8th, and we'll open polling stations at 6 a.m. We'll expect voters to be at the polling stations at that time, because it's, the earlier the better. At the polling station, of course, we'll have the agents from the political parties and independent candidates, and our officials, and also observers. We'll open the polling stations, and the voting process will continue until 5 p.m. When we close. But for those who will be on the queue at that time, they'll be enabled to actually complete the voting process. So we expect after the closure of the polling stations to actually go into the area of counting, tallying, transmission of the results. Now, what you require as a voter, as an electorate, to come and vote, you need first to have been registered among the 19.6 million voters whose biometrics we took. And the voters will just need to come with their identity card or a passport, whichever they used during the registration process.
If you have say you registered with your ID and you just have your passport now, maybe you've lost your ID, can that also be used?
It can't work.
It has to be the document.
It has to be the document that you use during the registration process. Just to clarify again, somebody or an electorate does not need a voter's card or an acknowledgement slip, because many of our rural communities, or even in the urban, whatever, some of us who are allies sometimes forget that maybe you need a ballot, a voter's card to go and use during the voting. That is not required. So when you get to the polling station, of course, we'll be having our queuing clerks who will be directing voters. As we speak right now, the register has been printed, and it is in the various polling stations and be pinned there so that people can actually verify where they appear in the polling stations. You realize that there are some schools or polling centers which are so large, and they have several stations. There's a polling center which could be like a primary school, and within that primary school we could be having several polling stations. Now which could be allocated to classrooms, for example. So each of these classrooms has now, we have now pinned the registers for that particular polling station. And so the voters are actually called upon to go and verify where they appear. Somebody may have made a mistake, not to change, or to change the voting station. So it's the time for people to do that now. At the polling station, once a voter is verified in terms of the ID or passport, they will now do the biometric verification, where they will actually place their fingers on our KIMS kit in order for us to verify that actually these are the people who registered at the time of registration. Once we have verified the voter, then we'll give the voter the 6 ballot papers. And I want to actually mention those ballot papers. One for the presidential, which is white. The second one is for the member of National Assembly, that is green. Then the third one is the ballot for the member of the County Assembly, the MCA, which is beige. Then the fourth ballot will be that of the senator, which is yellow. Then we have the fifth ballot, which is for the countywoman member to the National Assembly, which is purple. And finally, the ballot for the governor, which is blue. Those are the ballots that we are going to give to the voter, and we'll give them in phases, two each. Then these ballots will be stamped at the back. just to again add, issues of credibility to ensure that that ballot is actually an IEBC ballot. Once given, it's important that the voter just verifies that they are stamped, and then eventually the voter will be ushered to the polling booth. The voter then will actually mark in confidence, in secret, those ballots, and they will mark at the box. You see the ballot has the symbol of the party or of the candidate. It has the name and the picture of the candidate, and then it has also the box at the end. Now, you use a tick or a dash or a dot or any mark. For example, for our rural mothers who cannot actually write, they can use their thumbprint to make the mark. So that is what they'll do, and they'll do it in secret, unless it's an assisted voter, which I'll also explain. So on the box,
you can put a tick, you can put a cross?
Yes, but one thing I want to caution, you need to only put one mark. Because the moment you, for example, many people make a mistake. They say, because we want this particular candidate, my candidate choice is this one, so you mark, and then you say, these ones I don't like, so I'll put an X. Many times people use an X to say it's no. Now, if you do that, that vote is lost. So it's really, really important to all voters, and we have emphasized this in our voter education sessions, that on the ballot paper, you only mark one mark, whichever you choose. If it is a tick, it's an X, it's a dot, it's a dash, it's a thumbprint, but it must be one. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Yes, you wanted to...
Yes, I wanted to go back to the Narok issue and to just demonstrate that it is clear from the migration of people that even the prosecution department and all other criminal agencies are not acting in a vacuum. It depends on the circumstances and the environment in which you are operating. If there is insecurity, these criminal agencies cannot work to capacity or cannot be successful. And if there is insecurity, it interferes with people's access to justice and facilitation. Now, specifically for the Director of Public Prosecutions, one of the challenges that we have is insecurity, not only of our prosecutors and judicial officers, but in this case, when people are moving, we have 95 cases we have taken to court, 57 are still pending. Supposing some of those 57 cases are pending in this area that people are moving, you realize that the witnesses would move away, disperse, you don't know where they are going to. The complainants would move away. Officers would be disrupted. The accused persons who are on bail would move away. So when we go to court, you find that we cannot continue because insecurity has interfered with our success and due process. And at the same time, the insecurity has interfered with the capacity of even investigators and prosecutors to follow on these people. So apart from politicization and ethnicization of electoral offenses, insecurity is one of those things that agencies, not only criminal justice agencies, everybody must do their work. We are dependent, but we are interdependent. We hope that the security agencies who are in charge of security will take that into mind and make sure that there is an environment that allows everybody to exercise their rights and access justice and to participate in whatever
activity. Okay, but going back now to Chris Msando's murder, many of the questions being raised is the fact that we have so many pending cases.
Yes.
And we know the common phrase that has been used, no stone will be left unturned.
Yes.
What confidence or assurance would you give us that the Office of the DPP will do everything possible to ensure that the perpetrators of this murder are brought to book?
First and foremost, before we exercise our discretion to take a matter to court, we must be satisfied that we have sufficient evidence and it is in the public interest. Of all the cases that we have taken to court, and it is public because we have to give the docket to the accused person. If you go through the docket, the witnesses, the statements that we have given, you will be satisfied that we have exercised our discretion properly based upon law and based upon the Constitution. There was sufficient evidence, and it is in the public interest that that matter be taken to court. Now, once we are in court, there is no case that has ever been thrown out for lack of a prosecutor. We attend court. The next question would be the quality of our participation in court, and we are trying to enhance the capacity of our prosecutors. So if these cases are pending very long in court, it will be of other matters and variables, including the insecurity that you see if you can't get witnesses because of this. Yes, and sometimes documents disappear, and sometimes judicial officers are overstretched. And sometimes people change their minds. Witnesses are compromised. They are corrupted. They are bought. Witnesses are threatened. They cannot come to court. Now, a prosecutor, to be successful, your witnesses must come to court and you must articulate your case. So those are some of the variables,
the challenges that you go through. All right, Mr. Hassan Mohammed, we're winding up now. Your closing comments as we wind up, and this is basically to assure Kenyans, or what message you have to Kenyans as we only have 5 days to go.
I'm telling Kenyans that we have been told that IEBC is raring to go. So let's come out in big numbers and choose the people we want. Let us not have excuses later that somebody won because we didn't come out in those numbers which are required.
Your message to politicians, because this is a very critical time.
Yes, to politicians, I think we have to tone down the criticism of the institution which is doing the elections. It's good to be skeptical sometimes because in the past we have been used to some of these institutions not living to the...
They say once bitten, twice shy.
Yes, yes. Even in our language, we have something, you know, somebody found some milk somewhere and then he didn't want to take it. So when he was asked this, and he was told, why are you not taking the milk? He said, I got burnt by a white object in the past, so I'm just taking precautions. That is probably what is happening. But I think we are ready as Kenyans. Our destiny is in our hands. As Kenyans, let us choose our leaders. We have only 5 days, and let's prepare ourselves.
All right. Rasi Masudi, your closing comments?
Yeah, I just want to assure the public in terms of the preparedness of the Commission and the issue of ensuring that the elections are credible. I think the Commission has put in place mechanisms to ensure that the voting process and the counting process will be credible. Number one, when you're talking about the KIMS will only identify those people who are in the register, who have the biometrics. Number two, the KIMS kit will be able actually to track the counting so that any voter who votes, he will be tracked and cannot come back to vote again. And the KIMS kit at the end, any time and even at the end, after the last voter votes, it will actually track the number of voters that have, and that will be communicated to the tallying center. There will be a ballot paper control. Every 2-3 hours, that information will be going to the National Tallying Center or in our headquarters to ensure that we are actually tracking the ballots used in the polling stations. The agents are there basically to ensure that everything that will be done there is witnessed by the agents, and eventually they'll actually sign the results, the forms for the results. That form, immediately after the transmission, will be scanned and sent to the returning officers. So basically the results will not wait for somebody to leave West Pokot to come to the county tallying center or to the national tallying center. They will be scanned directly, and this will be shared in the public portal and also with the media. So this time around, in terms of credibility, everything will be,
you're ready.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, and we'll have to wind it up right there because of time. Dorcas Odur, Secretary of the DPP's office, thank you for joining us. We also have Rasi Masudi, who's the Director of Voter Education in the IEBC, and last but not least, we have Hassan Mohammed, who's the CEO of NCIC. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this morning, and this is where we're going to wind up this segment of the show, but Kivumbi 2017 continues right here, so do stay with us. We're also going to focus and look at international news and stories that are making headlines on an international level, and Michelle Gele is going to be handling that bit or that section of Kivumbi 2017. So we'll take a short break, but we'll be right back.